All right, happy Monday, everybody. We're going to go through the February message center, and these are the big things that I have seen since our last meeting in January that I want to make sure you're calling out. If you guys don't know about this section, really, it's looking at the message center within Microsoft 365 and really seeing, hey, what are the things you need to have a heads up on? And as always, there's a lot of stuff that's happening, always updates, timelines, changes, things like that. So make sure that when you're going out there that you are checking all of those little things specifically, especially those updates, because things sometimes slip. So we're going to start off with some of the new things first. And we're going to start off with Viva Engage. And on Viva Engage side, there's going to be a new area or news article that's actually coming out called a news article. Think of this as a blog, right? So this is an opportunity for somebody to be able to really have that platform to really talk about what they do, help out, like think about your leaders and think about those who really are subject matter experts on something at the platform for them to get that information out into your organization. So it's a new type of post that's going to be in Viva. Mid-February to early March is really when this is coming out. And make sure that if this is something that you guys are utilizing or have Viva, that you make sure you notify your end users because this is a big change. Let them know what's going on, get some training out there, and then go from there. The next one is on the SharePoint Online side of things, to be able to have the your administrators be able to create custom document library templates that are out there and put it into this area called the create new document library. This is starting targeted, already started to come out now and going to mid-February, so it should be done soon with a targeted group, standard from late February to mid-March. So this is actually utilizing PowerShell to be able to get these updated. Global or SharePoint admins have this ability to get in there, and then you can get that new, it literally shows up in this new document library area for people. Typically, it's going to be either from the Microsoft side, but it would be from your organization, so you can get it out there. Just let your people know that this is going to be happening. Also on the SharePoint side, so there's going to be a massive update that's going on with SharePoint lists. And to be quite honest, I've been a SharePoint person for quite a while, and I think a lot of you have as well. We've been waiting for some of these updates to happen on the SharePoint list side for quite a while. And so there's a really big post, and there's actually has a link in the message center to be able to point you to a little bit more detail as far as what's going on. But this is happening here from a targeted perspective, early February to late February, and then standard GCC, GCCH, DoD, and this is actually the first time I've seen U.S. Secure and U.S. National designations in here from a government side of things, late February to late June. And there's a lot of performance things that you're going to be seeing. Some ability to be able to share it out for instance, as a use case, share out a link to a list in a meeting and real time see what everybody else is making changes to. So maybe you have tiles, right? And then you want to be able to switch it from one category to the next. So you can have a group by and see those literally sitting there, and you can see people move things over as they're doing things. So real-time changes. Custom views, you're going to be seeing some added capabilities around tabs and creating these custom views. The ratings column is going to get an update, and we can literally do the rating right there inside the display view if we want to do that. Images, as you see that little GIF there, you are able to drag and drop an image into that image field inside the list, which is going to make things uploading images a lot easier to be able to do that. Calendars, which is probably one of the things that I know historically calendars has just not been updated at all. You're going to get a lot more conditional pieces like conditional formatting so that if it's a certain category, everything gets colored automatically. So, and there's going to be a new form experience that you're going to get when looking and editing and filling out that form. Also some turnkey templates that you're going to get, approvals, custom lists, flows with custom list templates in there. And then just make sure those things are happening as they're coming out. Make sure you're letting your users know, because it's a big change, especially site owners or those who are using SharePoint for a lot of information and their daily collaboration. Another thing that's on the SharePoint Online side of things is the SharePoint News side of things. And really what it's doing is it's giving, and I don't know if you ever get those, if you guys use those, but when you get that email coming in, they're really condensed, they're really small. And what's happening is that they're actually making it much bigger so you can see more content across the board. Targeted release already got it. Everybody else is getting it here early February to mid-February. And realistically, what's happening is that it's going right now, it's like a 600 pixel width. It's moving to 740. So you have more room to be able to see the information. I do want to make sure you guys know too, but from a mobile side of things, that 600 pixels is still going to stay 600 pixels just because it's a smaller format, right? But just know that this change is going to be happening and there's going to be a little bit more room for those news articles. All right, switching to SharePoint Online. So there's going to be a new group experience in Outlook in the web. Mid-February to late March is when it's going to be coming. And really it's on the online side of things, as well as the new version of Outlook for Windows, not the classic at this point. Really what they're doing is they're changing that home page. So when you click on the new groups side of things, and if you go into and you see a link that says, hey, I want to switch to new groups, what it's going to do is it's going to do the upgrade. And then you're going to be able to see this new home page for groups. And it's going to give you everything that you need to quickly get into those groups, to be able to see what's going on with those groups, to be able to interact with those groups and get more information and even share out with those groups. So it's a very updated experience from that side of things. So look for that coming in the near future, but make sure, because there is that upgrade capability, switch to new groups that's happening right now. Nothing saying it's going to be automatic yet, but right now you get that option to be able to switch that new groups. Let your users know, because they're going to start seeing this. They're going to be like, what the heck, right? So there is also a change, and this is a big change, guys, from the Teams side of things. We'll jump into Teams here. For this one, it's actually happening in early April. What's been happening is that they're going to be changing the website tab. And a quick, if you want to just throw your hand up or do a heart or whatever, how many are utilizing in your organization yourself the website tab in a Teams channel? All right, so we have a couple. Yeah, we have a couple people that are doing that. This is going to be an important change for you guys to know about. Okay, go ahead and lower your hands if you have your hands up. So they're retiring that capability. And the reason why they're doing that is because there's been some new Chromium standards that have been put out there. And if you guys know, specifically, we utilize in Teams Chromium behind the scenes, right? So that's that Chromium-based app. We use Edge as really our name of it, but as a Chromium app. And these web standards really it's much better security, but they're preventing websites to be embedded in apps, right? So that's part of the reason why. It's not even an us thing, like from a Microsoft perspective. It is hey, it's an industry thing that's happening. So what you're going to see instead is you're going to have a button that says go to website, and it will automatically then take you to that website, open it up in your preferred browser, and go from there. So keep that in mind. Now understand too, this only is for commercial, enterprise, government, right? EDU and Teams mobile apps. This will not apply at this point. Okay, that might change later on. We'll see. All right, continuing on the Teams side of things. If you're familiar with Teams Rooms, has had this thing called content cameras for a little while. The ability to be able to have an external camera that's not the main camera in a room, but the ability to be able to have that pointing to a whiteboard, right? Something like that, to be able to then take that content and bring it into that meeting for those remote users. Well, starting here, targeted release early February to mid-February, standard in GCC early March, mid-March, GCCH and DoD coming in later, is you can use that built-in camera on your laptop to do the exact same thing, right? It's going to be built into Teams. Right. So then either Windows or Mac, then you point it to the whiteboard, it'll find the outline, find that area, and then be able to then bring that into it without having to see all that extra stuff. The other thing that's interesting too is if you have your camera pointed at, it's hard to do it if you have a laptop, but if you have another camera that's mounted, pointing down like a document type camera, then you can actually have books or a whiteboard or something like that that's on there that'll be able to do the exact same thing. It will allow you to, it will detect it, it'll crop it, and then frame it as an in-room object into your Teams meeting, right? So that capability is coming here, and make sure you let your users know that this is going to be happening because it's a big deal. All right, there's also another change in the webinars and town halls capability. All right, this is starting to happen, and it's really the informed meeting options. So previously, if I wanted to be able to make changes to the meeting options for a webinar or a town hall, I had to create it and then later on go back and make that change. What this is saying is that even before you go ahead and create it, and as you're setting it up, you're going to be able to go in and make the changes to the meeting options for those two types of templates within Teams meetings. Okay, just makes it a lot easier to do that. So that's happening, targeted already happening right now, GCC and standard happening mid-February to late February. So coming here at the end of the month, you should be able to see that. All right. With that, let's talk about some quick mentions that I just want to kind of go through a little bit, just so you can get to see these little things, but I think they're not all just little. It's just I want to make sure you guys hit. One of them that I really want to kind of talk about, and I'm going to flip around to a couple different places. Number one is this one right here, which is the Hide Generals channel. What this is it brings the ability so that you can actually hide in your personal, in Teams, in the desktop, hide that from your own view, right? So not everybody uses the general channel, right? So I just don't want necessarily to see it. So you're going to be able to hide it, and then you can come back and show it if you need to do that later on. So that's a very important piece. If you do have webinars going on, the ability to be able to, if you have the additional questions that you put in on a webinar, it comes with the first and last name and email and some of those things. And if you add any new custom ones, in the past, you actually had to do it in order. Now you can actually do it in any order, and you can modify the order inside that after the fact, which is going to be a very good change. I do want to point out there is a URL change for Viva Goals. Make sure you're updating any URL allow lists that you have to make sure that's the case. There is another change coming on specifically with OneDrive and SharePoint wrapped around custom scripts. Right, so we've used custom scripts to be able to get a little bit more capability within OneDrive or even SharePoint. There is going to be a setting that's going to be removed. Keep an eye on that. You can allow it back in with PowerShell specifically, but understand if you have already scripts that are already out there, these are not going to be impacted at the point as anything new after the fact. I found this one interesting, but it is in preview, just so you know this is going on. Microsoft Forms will allow you to be able to do a live data sync to Excel, so that literally as people are filling out that form, you can see to date, literally at that time as things are coming in. And if you have any analysis that's set up, any charts or anything like that, that will automatically update as those things are happening. So keep that one in mind. As well as the last one I want to just quickly point out is this external call routing settings. And this is really around Teams Phone. What we've been missing on the Teams Phone side is to be able to, for an end user, somebody that has Teams Phone, to be able to deal with, hey, if a phone or if a call is coming in from external, right, in inbound call, I want to do something about it, right? I may want to send it all to voicemail. Right, I'm busy, I just can't do anything right now, let's take that. We don't really have the ability to do that versus internal, right? So just regular calls internal. I want to be able to do just those inbound calls in that scenario. This change happening here, coming up here in February, March, and April for GCCH and DoD, you're going to be able to designate inbound calls versus internal calls and say, hey, I want these to go to voicemail and everything else just gets through normal. Or I want to go to a delegated group, right? I can do that. And that's a new, that feature is coming out here pretty quick. Some updated ones I do want to make sure you guys understand. These are ones that dates have changed. And you may have been looking for this capability and feature, just understand it may have gotten pushed, right? So things like cloud and teleframe, where if I have a room, in a conference room and there's individuals in there, what this is going to do is going to be able to pop out each of those individuals so I can see them as opposed to the whole, so I can see them a little bit easier within that meeting being a remote user. Other pieces, some stream things we talked about previous session around being able to add a survey, poll, or quiz, a hypertext, or even be able to collaborative notes in Teams meeting after the fact. All of that got pushed, right? So they all were moving to, they were supposed to be early February, now they're moving to late February or even March. There is also an improvement happening. I want you to keep an eye on that one. This one right here, improved view of service health issue details. What they're doing is they're really condensing the information to make it easier to be able to read it quickly and then do something about it, right? And then the last one I want to kind of talk about is the remove activity feed in Teams, new Teams. That got pushed. And you have this ability, and I think we talked about this before, but we have this ability to hit the ... after an activity or right click on it and say, I don't want to see this in my activity feed anymore. For an example, I did notice that meeting invites were starting to come into my activity feed in Teams, and that would be my Outlook meeting invites, right? I didn't want to see those. I already know they're coming through, so I was able to go in here and remove that from my activity feed, that capability. Finally, I want to talk about the admin actions, things to keep in mind. And I'm going to talk about the first one is going to be the new Teams client. And I added this link. So if you click on the link in PowerPoint Live, that'll take you to that information. There is a new usage report that just was released in Teams Admin Center to be able to actually see who has updated to that new Teams client. Remember, March 31st is that end date. Starting in April 1st, then what's going to end up happening is everybody's going to be moved over to that new Teams experience. So make sure you guys are working through this. This is a big deal. I know internally, as you might know, I work for Microsoft, and a lot of my customers are in a lot of process to get this figured out right now. So it's very important, I think, if you guys are not doing this, that you're looking at it and getting ready for it. So make sure you're doing that. Don't forget Stream Retirement, Stream Classic Retirement's happening April 15th. And then InfoPath, again, I get to use that term again. Don't forget, and interesting enough, I had a customer that pinged us just the other week that says, hey, we still have a lot of InfoPath out there. We need to move it over. We still don't know what we have. And so there is information out there about how to be able to figure out where your InfoPath forms are, and then what they're what they're doing. And then you have to go through and create them or get rid of them, right? That's the idea. So we're going to be talking about InfoPath for just a little bit longer, at least until July 14th, 2026. So yay, InfoPath. All right.
Yay, InfoPath.
Yeah, exactly. So with that, I think that's it. I don't see